I'm Jay Schuyler, Deputy Director of the Diabetes Research Institute at the University of Miami Miller School of Medicine.
And I'm Terry Gregg. I'm the CEO of Dexcom.
I think that in my case, I recommend continuous glucose monitoring to essentially everybody I see with type 1 diabetes. And, in fact, I have a number of people with type 2 diabetes who use it as well, including myself. I think the more information you have, the more informed you can be about your disease, the more you can take appropriate actions, and you can really narrow the excursions of glucose such that you'll get into the normal range, a much greater portion of the time. And that really will help improve the overall life of the patient, both acutely in terms of avoiding hypoglycemia, and in the long run in terms of having a better, longer life without complications. I think that's a crucial thing, and I think we've got to get more and more people to pay attention to it, and we've got to get insurance companies to be willing to pick up their share of the burden on this instead of putting doctors through hoops of filling out forms and prior authorizations and so many things. And I think that's what ends up leading many doctors not to want to get into it, because they don't want to be bothered by the burden of all the forms, something which is inherent in medicine today in so many ways, but in this case in particular.
Well, I think it's through the managed care system. So we have managed to move a fair amount of our business from the durable medical equipment side over to pharmacy benefit. So the adjudication from a pharmacy benefit standpoint, much like the drugs, are much easier for physicians. I think also from just the acceptance by the payer system of understanding that there is benefit from CGM goes a long way into the reduction of the amount of paperwork that is necessary. That said, one of the challenges is there are only 2 companies that have approved product, and all sensors are not built the same way. So our competitor has a very poorly performing sensor, and so we sometimes get lumped into that sensors aren't ready for prime time. When we separate the performance of the G4 out from that, it is clear that number one, our attrition rate is very low, and number two, patients love the system and utilize it, they trust it, and so we have to constantly be telling the payer system, separate out a Dexcom G4 from anybody else's sensor to look at that performance, because certainly payers want to pay for products that patients use, not for products that patients put on the shelf. And so there's still that ongoing battle with utilization. But I would say that if we look at the penetration as a category of being approximately 8%, and you contrast that to continuous insulin pumps, which today still have not achieved a 30%, we're growing quite rapidly as a category. Obviously, Stephen, we're growing quite rapidly as a company, up over 60% year over year for the first 2 quarters, and we'll announce our results, our financial results next week. We're doing quite well, but we've been a lone voice in all of this, so the challenge has been much greater for a company like Dexcom.